saying that last Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Unbreak my heart, say you love me again. Undo those hurtful words when you walked out the door and walked out of my life. Uncry these tears. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tuesday. You already know who's gay. It's your boy. Maybe. You never know. Listen, been in Texas, Austin, over a year now. Sometimes, listen, if you can't beat them, join them off. Jack them off. What? Who said that? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tuesday. If you haven't been here before, welcome to Tuesday. It's no difference. No one's special. That's the point of the world. Maybe I should call my first special ever that. No one's special. Special. Evan Lopez, no one's special. Special. Okay? Because at the end of the day, no one's special. And because of that, everyone's special. Okay? That's what you call a Tuesday morning bar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? Cha-ching! Listen, sound effects are gone. The reverb are gone. Sometimes you gotta fucking David Goggin this shit and just say, who's gonna carry the boats? Your boy. Your boy's gonna carry them, okay? And I'm just gonna, like a fucking camel, I just fucking, I never heard a camel. Put that fucking shit on my hump and just carry the podcast. Because listen, when it says 7 minutes and Evan on the wall, you can't be relying on a soundboard, okay? Listen, the podcast goes through evolution, revolution, and a bunch of other illusions, okay? And we're adjusting the podcast. I know where I place the mic arm right now is blocking the sign, okay? That's just temporary. Just temporary. That's something you realize right as you start recording and say, fuck it, Bill O'Reilly style, we're going to do it live. How crazy. Bill O'Reilly. Throwback. A throwback. Sometimes that's when you know you're getting old, is when you start throwing out these references and people have no idea who they are. Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we're going to do it live. If you've never seen that, it's the epitome of an old man struggling with technology and just getting so frustrated with technology and everything that I was cutting out. That is literally the canary in the coal mine of what not to do. I've realized this from technology and like being a millennial. I feel like we're kind of like the middle children of technology, okay? Because I grew up without it, and then I grew up with it, like a nice balance of knowing life before the internet and life after the internet. It's it's actually a very profound place to be, because you're like the Elmer's glue of two generations. And if that glue just had tons of anxiety in it, okay? Because that's what it feels like my generation is full of. All right, now everybody gets anxiety, but I would love to actually know what anxiety feels like to the people who just have like chronic anxiety. Because I have had anxiety, if I'm being real with you. There was times where I was having panic attacks and just like crazy shit, and it was just like such a crazy feeling. But I feel like anxiety has become almost like a personality trait, where people are just like that's their horoscope. They're like, oh, what are you? They're like, I'm a Libra. And they're like, oh, what are you? I'm anxious, you know? And it's just like, it means two different things to two different people. I feel like when people say like I suffer from anxiety, I feel like it's a spectrum, you know, and it's almost cool to say. Anyway, the point I was making, the Elmer's glue of two different generations that grew up with nothing, and a generation that was completely only with the internet. I feel like it's a crazy thing, but it's also the canary in the coal mine, the opposite, that we're going back and we're weaving in all these rabbit holes that we're just diving into. I'm like a goddamn little Peter Rabbit with, I got my little goggles and like some fucking flowery like swimming cap, and I'm just doing fucking tricks off the high board into different rabbit holes. And then I land in one rabbit hole and you think that's the rabbit hole. And then you realize the entire time I've been stepping on another diving board and I fucking backflip, double twist, swan dive into another rabbit hole. And then I come up like a goddamn synchronized swimmer, just my legs just tying it up perfectly. Okay? That's what we're doing here. This shit is rabbit hole acrobatics, ladies and gentlemen. And fucking, you're welcome. But the point I was making, the canary in the coal mine of what not to be is an older person who doesn't embrace technology. And maybe that's just the thing of being a millennial, is you have the opportunity, the perspective to see what it is like when someone older does not embrace technology. And then 10 years later, they're struggling just to play catch up and they're so far behind. Like, imagine trying to explain memes to someone who is just getting with the internet and they're like, what's this? Okay. And why is that funny? Okay. But then there's just such high level memes now where it's like, this is Spanish 4, baby. Okay. You're over here saying, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? We're past that, baby. Okay. We're over here conjugating paragraphs and shit. All right. You're over here going, uno, dos, tres, and we're going, nos, nosotros, nos vamos. You know, like we're past that, baby. And we don't backtrack because that's a backpack. What? I don't know. It's something fucking Lupe Fiasco said that always stuck with me. But yeah, that's a scary thing when you realize you've fallen behind. I had a glimpse of that a couple years ago when pictures I was taking with my phone automatically started backing up pictures to the cloud. And there might have been a time in my life your boy had like sent like bad pictures and like, you know, was taking certain pictures. And it were like pictures that I didn't want on my computer were ending up on my computer. And I was like, oh boy, what is this doing on my iTunes? You know, because for some reason it was under there, my fucking iPhoto. And I was like, no. Had to get back into it and had to block everything. I was like, no, this is a brick. Everything that's in this phone, this is a closed circuit loop. Okay. I don't want anything going out that's not supposed to be going out. All right. But yeah. And then I was like, I have to keep my pulse on the technology. I can't just slip away. Okay. The only thing that I haven't been a part of is, and I'm just waiting. I just like to see how things go for a while, is the metaverse. The metaverse and virtual reality. I did virtual reality years ago, and I remember it being like, it was cool. I definitely was like, this is the future. But at the time, it was not very good. There was a lot of bugs they were working out, and it was, you know, all this stuff that you can do. And all these side effects. And I'm like, I'm going to sit on this, and I'm going to wait like 5 to 10 years, because then it's going to get very good. So I'm about 3 or 4 years out from when I start buying virtual reality. Because at how fast it's evolving, I'm just waiting. I'm like, no. I'm going to get it when it's good. All right. I don't want to just get something and then having to constantly keep upgrading. Okay. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Okay. Thank you for listening. As always, thank you. I love you so much, more than you'll ever know. Anyway, had a great weekend. Had a show Saturday night. Thought I might be getting myself into a sticky situation. I show up at this, what seemed like a warehouse, for this show called Underground Voices. Shout out to Paul Miller, P Jams, P Miller, talented rapper, music producer, event coordinator, show producer, a little bit of everything. Okay, the man is talented. And he wanted to put me on a show where it was going to be a mixed bag of performers. There was going to be comedians, then music acts, then comedians, which is it's a delicate dance to have comedy, then music, then comedy, then music. Like comedy to comedy is already a struggle enough. You got to kind of like Busta Rhymes says when he's rapping, you just got to keep them dice rolling. You know, you got to keep it shaking and keeping the momentum of the show. But I pull up to this place and it looks like, oh shit, I have just dropped into Gotham City. I was like, I don't know where I turned, and I hit a time warp, and now Robert Pattinson is somewhere around here, hiding in a dark corner, jacking off, calling himself Vengeance, you know? Just being real weird in the shadows, jerking off to My Chemical Romance, just like tapping his foot to like Mr. Brightside, I feel, you know, just real. Like, I feel like at any point during that Batman movie, Robert Pattinson could have just like opened a door and just been like, haven't you heard of closing the goddamn door? All Robert Pattinson needed in that movie, is it Pattinson or Patterson? Anyway, one of those, he just shows up behind me with a fucking little goth lip ring. Like, I feel like that Batman hung out at Hot Topic for sure. It was dark. There's so many weird correlations between his character in Twilight and his character in Batman. Like, for one, both bats were at the base of it. That's kind of crazy, right? Both super emo. Just groundbreaking correlations. Okay, I have to probably be the first person on the planet who ever made that connection. But that is one emo Batman, if I'm being real with you. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love the movie. I thought it was a great movie. And I think Robert Pattinson, dude, is it Patterson? Is it Patterson? Because now it's just driving me crazy. It's one of those things where you just keep saying it and it sounds weird now. I want to say it's Pattinson. Yeah, Pattinson. He was a great Batman. I give him complete credit for it. I think he killed that role, and I think what they did was great. It made all the other Batmans almost seem campy. Like almost, it was, that's what comic books are. There's like a lot of stoicism and just like, raw, and like a little bit of like you know, like I'm a superhero, you know, like he is shaking hands or shaking babies and kissing hands, you know. But this Batman seemed more realistic, where I went and watched another Batman movie after, and it was almost like it was too much. There was too much, what do they call it? English on the ball. You know, I was like, oh, this is a little heavy. Maybe pull back the lip gloss like 20%. That's what it felt like. Because if you even go back and watch like the George Clooney Batman, it's just like, this is silly. Jim Carrey killed the Riddler when he was the Riddler. That's just, Jim Carrey is just such a badass at what he does. And the Penguin was great. But listen, none of this was about fucking the Batman. You know, that's such a weird place we went. Where did we even go to get there? Oh yeah, I was in Gotham City. Dude. Rabbit hole acrobatics, baby. Ready? Boing! Back in. Okay. I pull up to this place and it's, I remember asking, I said, hey, is this at the ATX Jungle? Because it was like nearby. And he goes, nah, it's behind that. And I'm like, cool. Anyway, went through a portal through Narnia, ended up in Gotham City. And there's a dude just painting the warehouse. And I'm like, oh, cool. This can't be where it's at. Sure enough, I pull up. This is where it's at. And I get out. And it is a warehouse, and I'm like, okay, the Penguin and Henchman are inside here. And I would have gone home if I hadn't seen my boy Shannon Sims, a talented comedian, great host. And he's outside doing something on the wall, dressed like, I don't even know, Suge Light in his overalls, pink shirt with green shoes, a fashion risk, but he pulled it off, you know? And it ended up being a great show. It ended up, it was a fun crowd. And it was funny because I feel like mainly everybody was there for music. And it made me realize how important an audience is at knowing that it's a crowd for comedy. Like sometimes you get into a weird crowd of people where, you know, I've done a couple shows where they didn't know stand-up was about to happen. One time I got asked to open a flamenco show. where there was like, a couple hundred people in there. And it was the person who was running this event center where I hosted a lot of comedy shows there in Ventura. And they were like, hey, can you come open this flamenco show? And I was like, oh, cool. You got the one comedian in Ventura who has a Spanish last name. There's a few of us. But I go to open this flamenco show. I walk in. The room is packed. I was like, holy shit. I didn't know this many people could be in here. Because when I would do shows there, 20, 25 people. Now that's a packed show at this place. There's a couple hundred people in there. And I'm like, I can't believe they even got this many people in here. I walk in, I go to the back of where the producer and they have like the soundboard, microphones, everything. I walk in and he goes, here you go. You ready to go? And I literally just walked up to it. I just go, let me get 1 minute to just like center myself, which sounds super gay. But I just go, let me just like, because I couldn't go from just the car to this. Like it literally was like a baton race. Like he handed me the fucking thing. He was like, run. And I was like, let me tie my fucking shoes. So then I'm holding the microphone and I just do like a couple breaths and I'm just like, okay, we're here. I look on my phone for a second. I just go, okay, this is the set I'm going to do. And then he goes, okay. And I go, hit the lights or whatever they were going to do. Like, I think they had like music, just like a sting of like, da-na-na-na-na. And then I start walking through the crowd. I just go, all right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? And then a couple scattered fucking claps. And I'm like, all right, this is great. And I was like, riffed something about flamenco or some joke. Got a weird chuckle. Started, just doing jokes. Got a few laughs. But then there was almost like I could see in people's faces that they were confused. Like a few people, like some people weren't laughing. Some people were like trying to listen as if I was like giving instructions. And I just keep going. And then finally I go, hey, did you guys know there was going to be comedy? And then they go, literally everybody just starts laughing. They're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm literally just like, that got them, because once they realized like, oh, this was comedy, we can laugh at this, and this is like a thing that's happening, they started like enjoying it. And some people were like all into it. And then some people were just sitting there looking at me and just in disgust. Some people were annoyed and just looking at the ceiling, which is fine. I'm like, hey, if you didn't expect this, I apologize. But then I'd be looking off to my left and I saw all the flamenco dancers. There was like, there's the backstage area. And I could see like 30 dancers and they're all in their dresses and like fucking the guys and they're fucking looking like what is that? Ready for a quinceañera. And they're all waiting there. And I remember I riffed like a couple jokes about that was weird. And there was also like 4-year-olds. There was like little dancers. And I'm over here talking about fucking dating Latinas and crazy shit like that. Cause I'm like, okay, it's flamenco. I got to at least talk about like Latin shit. And then I'm like, oh, this is very uncomfortable. And I got off stage and I was like, well, that was awkward. And it was a weird thing. And in those kind of situations, I remember asking this weekend when I was doing the show, did anybody know that there was going to be comedy? Half the room was confused. They were like, we didn't really, like, I don't know. But what was also weird is like it was throwing me off because they were laughing at setups and not necessarily the punchlines at certain parts. And I'm just like, this is an odd duck. But you know what? I'm like a duck, baby, because it's just water off my back. You just got to keep it moving, pimping. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. Went way too long on that subject, and I apologize, okay? I fucking apologize for absolutely nothing. Keep up. I watched a great documentary this weekend. Blew me away. Put a lot of shit into perspective. The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, the Unheard tapes on Netflix. Okay, everybody knows, at least, my thought about what had happened to Marilyn Monroe was that she was an actress who was beloved by everyone, hooked up with a couple guys, and overdosed, that she killed herself accidentally. And if you listen to, it's basically this one guy interviews a bunch of people who were connected to her, kind of telling her story. And he just wanted to do a piece on Marilyn Monroe. And it ended up transforming into this huge thing where they broke down everything. Like it was a hashtag rabbit hole where he realized, oh, this is so much bigger than what people think actually happened to Marilyn Monroe. And everybody's known about the connection to the Kennedys that Marilyn Monroe had, but I had no idea how crazy that connection really was, and how insane it was. How allegedly there was connections between her, Jack Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and JFK. Like there was she was involved in all of them, or they were all involved in her anyway. And they were dogs. The Kennedys, they were just dogs. There's, you know about JFK, and maybe people have a deeper history of the Kennedys, but I just knew that they were like kind of, doggy, sluts, I guess you could say. But their own dad, Joe Kennedy, I believe his name was, told him, listen, son, you hook up with as many women, as many different women, and as often as you can. Where the fuck did that even come from? That's like this dude thinking that they're Highlander, and you're just getting that pussy, and you're just like, you like grow a little bit stronger. Okay. And it was just such gross stuff. Like people think Trump was bad. Fucking listen to the Kennedys, about grabbing pussy. They were grabbing feline compounds, if you will. All right. They were just opening up their own fucking Tiger King, Joe Exotic land. All right. It was like a fucking shelter on pussy night. Anyway, we went too far with that. Okay. That last one watered it down. Everything I learned from this made me think that, oh, okay, yeah, she got killed by the Kennedys. There was like cover-ups. There was this thing where like allegedly she died at 4 a.m. that an ambulance showed up, and that's the way they claimed that it happened. But there was another one that came at midnight, and they took her to a hospital, and then the hospital, somehow she ended up back at her house in a position that made it seem like she had overdosed, and then she was discovered again. So there was always this idea that she died at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. She was declared dead, but she had really been brought to the hospital at midnight the night before, when she was still alive, and they brought her back to the house. And then the FBI came, people who claimed they were with the FBI, seized all pictures of any photos her involving the Kennedys. Anything that they were in pictures together, they took all of that. And it was like these weird connections where she was one step removed from all these connections that were like connected to Cuba and the Communist Party and everything like that, which was just insanity. And it's like, it's eye-opening to the level of control and manipulation that happened in government. And while I think there's a lot of shit being exposed now, this is the best time to be alive and to be learning about all this shit and to be looking at exploiting politicians, because it's like, look at all the shit that they can't get away with anymore. I feel like back in the day before the internet, you couldn't do anything. There was no exposing politicians. Okay, like it was just, they did what they did and it would just go away. It was like, who are you going to tell? Are you going to fucking call people individually and try to bring awareness? No, it's like now it's just spread like wildfire, which is like, I feel, there's been all this stuff coming out about insider trading with these politicians. Fucking the amount of shit that had to have gone on before. Oh my God. Just straight manipulation. But Marilyn Monroe, kind of a sad story. A really sad story. What's her name? Norma Jean? Sad story. Sad childhood. And it was just terrible, She definitely did a lot of things to get ahead. That's what I'll say. Anyway, speaking of getting ahead, what? Who said that? Pete Davidson. Very talented comedian. very talented sketch artist, if you will. Great delivery. Been in the game for a long time. Everybody knows about this Kim Kardashian Kanye drama with Pete Davidson. Everybody knows it. It's like, it's a spectacle. And it's a weird thing, this whole thing that's just been blown up and become this huge thing. But one thing that I found fascinating, you know, Pete Davidson got a tattoo that says, "My girl's a lawyer," or whatever. And then he got branded with Kim Kardashian's name or something, her initials. I feel bad because Pete Davidson is someone who struggled from mental health issues and things like that. And I feel like Kim Kardashian is going to be the death of him. Okay. I feel like it's just going to get bad. No one comes out normal involved in that family at all. It's like men go into it and it's like a goddamn hurricane. And then they come out with like fucking tattered clothes and they don't know where up is and everything. It's like that game where they would like spin you around in the chair really fast. And then you have to like get up and like try to tag somebody. That's what it's like being involved with the Kardashians, it looks like. But things are getting weird. I just saw this weekend, Pete Davidson got Kim Kardashian and Kanye West kids' names initialed on his body. This is the weirdest shit ever. They haven't been dating for months. Listen, if I started dating someone and they even put a picture of my dog as their home screen on their phone, I'd be like, dude, this is getting a little too much. Even after a few months, we've been dating, we've been everything, and they just put my dog as their background. I'm like, hey, pump the brakes. I can't imagine if they wanted to get my name tattooed on them after a couple months. I'd be like, hey, let's make it through a couple holidays together. Okay. Let's have a few blowout fights and see if we can make it through the dark waters before you get my name tattooed on you. Okay. It's, I feel like a minimum of you want to get someone's name tattooed on you, you gotta be together for 5 years. It's gotta be a significant amount of time. And all that being said, for someone to get another person's kids initialed on their body, you better have found out those kids were actually yours. Okay? You better, like, you have to be together and be like, they don't even have to be yours. It just has to be like, these are my kids. We're married. These kids are no different than if they were my kids. But Pete Davidson coming in after a couple months, basically playing house and being like, yeah, I love these kids so much. It's so extreme. And this is when I say, okay, we have to protect Pete Davidson. Okay, because I don't know what you heard about this whole Amber Heard trial, but these women out here emotionally abusing men, okay, manipulating and just weaving a woven weave. Fuck does that mean? But it's just too. It's becoming like a thing. Like this is not okay, Pete. I don't know what's going on, but it's like, it's just a little extreme. And I'm scared of the backlash. And I'm someone who's just like, you can do whatever the fuck you want with your life. If you want to fucking tattoo someone's name on your willy, fucking go for it. Be weird if you did the kids' names, but you can do it. But all I'm saying is this is a red flag. This is a fucking red zebra flag. All right? That this shit, listen, once you rub the magic lamp, the genie's coming out whether you want those wishes or not. And they're not going to be good wishes, is what I'm saying. Okay? But it is kind of crazy that these past couple months, there has been, and it's a good thing, a lot of awareness for women manipulating men in relationships and looking at actual abuse that women can do to men which is great. I honestly support that 100% because it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot is men getting abused by women, probably because there's a huge portion of, I don't know, when you look at like physical assault and size discrepancy and like what can actually happen in a relationship, I understand that men probably abuse a lot more. But we have to at least acknowledge that this does happen to men, that they can be emotionally abused and manipulated, and the women who do it should be held accountable. If we're going to hold men accountable for abusing women, I feel like we got to do the same for abusing men. Just like this whole Amber Heard thing. Even when she says that shit, she's literally manipulating the situation and abusing this code of ethics that people have in society. And it abuses this idea of like believe all women in this whole code of ethic. And she's like, oh yeah, Johnny, go ahead and try to tell people it was a fair fight, that you got abused. You know, see how that works out for you. Hey, bitch. It's working out pretty well, huh? Working out pretty well for him. Listen, even if this trial ends and nothing happens, this was a complete win for Johnny Depp. Shout out to Johnny Depp. Just killing it out there. Given the performance of a lifetime in the courtroom with the subtleties, just hints, oaky underbirth, if you're a wine connoisseur. But now we just got to start working on Will and Jada. Okay, we need a court for them just to put them through the ringer. Okay, because Will's a victim. Okay, there I said it. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I know that pissed a lot of you off, and that's the point. But listen, thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you. Okay, I hope you guys have a great week. We'll be back on Thursday. And remember, no matter what, I still love you.